Hello and welcome to this episode of the Road to Reckley podcast. I'm Callum, and today we're going to be talking about my trip to the Continental Cup in Nottingham and having a bit of a general catch-up. That's right, I took a bit of a trip. Had a lovely time up in Nottingham to go and watch the Continental Cup and support the Panthers, the team I follow in the IHL. And I have to say, it was a pretty awesome few days. So I didn't go for the full 4-day stretch. Basically, I chose to do hockey practice on Wednesday instead of catching two games on Wednesday. I couldn't make both fit. That's fine. But I did get to watch every single team play, I think twice, some 3 times. And, without trying to spoil the ending, I guess, but I did get to watch Nottingham lift the Continental Cup, which was awesome. The crowd was awesome because it was at home. So it was like a home win. They're out on the balcony, like 11 o'clock at night, cheering away like maybe 1,000, 2,000 people there or whatever. It was pretty nuts. Really awesome, actually. I'll probably put some footage online somewhere, I guess. But yeah, it was amazing. Really, really cool experience. But really, I think the whole event was great. It was really well run. It was really easy. Obviously, the day games on the Thursday and Friday when people had work were quiet. And the games that didn't have the Panthers were obviously a bit quieter as well, but I actually really enjoyed being in a half-empty rink just watching hockey because I got to really appreciate the sport. I mean, the atmosphere is one thing, and I actually think they both have their merits, right? So having a really cool atmosphere is great, but just being able to appreciate the sport was something that stood out. So for this episode, what I want to do is I'm not going to go through scores and results and stuff like that because I guess the internet, you can just search it up, right? I want to talk about my experience. A couple of things that really stood out for me. And then what I've done is I've gone through each of the 6 teams, and I've picked out a player that stood out to me. And it might be because they were good, it might be because of how they played, it might be because they were bad. But what I wanted to do was just pick out a player from each team that stood out, that I obviously enjoyed watching, I guess, or didn't, as the case may be for one of them in particular, which I'll get to, I guess. But yeah, I just thought it'd be fun to share that. And just a few things I think I appreciated from the whole event. So I guess from the actual event's perspective, the big thing that stood out to me was neutral hockey is a great sport to watch. If you don't care about the outcome and you can just really absorb the sport for what it is, it's actually really fun. So obviously I watched a lot of games that didn't involve teams I support, from different parts of Europe. The quality of play was great. It was really solid. There was some good physicality in there for European hockey. There was, they didn't call every single big open ice hit. There were a couple, and that was great. There was a bit of scrapping here and there. No gloves off, punching each other's lights out. But it was a physical game, and it was good to watch. But like I say, as a neutral spectator, you just get to enjoy the whole sport. So there were multiple games that went to shootouts. There was a 4-3 win in overtime. There were loads of goals, lots of great opportunities, loads of really good moments, great skill play, some outstanding saves that I'll get to in a bit. And it just meant you got to enjoy every single moment rather than sort of dread 50% of the moments that are happening on the ice in a close game. But yeah, that kind of neutral hockey is, I think, a really good place to be. And it's really inspired me to start planning basically a European road trip. So I've sort of toyed with the idea. I've made a few notes in the months gone by, but I'm going to plan to do a 2-week, maybe 2 and a bit week if I can, a road trip of Europe by hockey rink basically, and try and watch a game in 7 or 8 different countries over that 2-week period. Might be difficult because of weekend and weekday schedules, but I'm hoping that and it'll probably be a bit of planning. So it might be, well, it won't be this year. Let me put it that way. So it'll be a next year thing, I expect. But I think it'd be really cool. So I want to watch a couple of those teams I've seen from this week already. I want to go and see some totally different teams for different reasons. And watch, I guess, the multiple tiers of European hockey, because there really are I won't say haves and have-nots, but there are strong leagues. The SHL is a really strong league where the best players in that could probably muck in with the sort of players of the NHL. And then you've got your second tier British hockey league, which is made up of people that were pretty good in junior in Canada and then couldn't get much further than that, or maybe went to U Sports or couldn't quite crack a heavy point scoring season in the NCAA or something like that. They've been fringe players for most of their young adulthood, and then have moved over this way to earn a living for a few more years. So you get all the skill levels in between that, and it's still really engaging to watch, kind of regardless. Although I will say, like I said, the better quality of hockey this week versus what I might catch at Bristol on the weekend was actually really nice to see. So, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. And this trip will hopefully encompass, like I say, 7 or 8 countries. Probably a good few thousand miles, but be a really cool trip. Head out as far sort of east as the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and then try and get up to Sweden if I can. If I can't, I'll stop at Denmark. But I wouldn't mind getting up to see an SHL game if I can. Maybe try and catch like a Skellefteå or like a Frölunda or something, or wherever it is. I can't remember the other one that I was interested in. But yeah, maybe a Skellefteå game. Yeah, so that's kind of, I guess it's like I say, it's really cemented that desire to go over and do a full tour. I think that'd be a really cool way of doing it. There was a really interesting sort of split in play style that was quite fascinating. So there's a team from Kazakhstan there that were very young, very fast, played the rush game, and then pretty much everyone else was like a cycle, physical sort of game, rather than trying to blitz a transition or something like that. So which is really cool to see, and those kind of physical play styles. It became a point of like which team was more capable of getting into getting into a cycle, getting physical, winning board battles, and it was just a really cool thing to see. And there are a couple of players, like I say, on my list that probably aren't necessarily like flashy, but I love what they do in sort of like kind of really, I don't know. I think for me, it's just that kind of game I like. I mean, yeah, like a rush is exciting and everything, but sustained ozone pressure on a cycle and like grafting away, and I just think that's something really, I don't know what the right phrase is, but yeah, it's like going to work, I guess. And I think that's really cool when you get to see hockey players go to work rather than just moments of brilliance, which are great to watch too. But for a 60-minute game, you get a few flashes of brilliance, but I can appreciate minutes of the game because they're just doing what they're supposed to be doing, fulfilling their roles. I also realised that I watched 7 games of hockey in 3 days, and I probably could have doubled that and still been happy. I actually don't think there's a limit to how much live hockey I can watch. That's definitely something that stood out to me as well. At no point was I bored. I hardly looked at my phone during games. Well, in fact, I didn't. I looked at them during the break and when I was taking pictures. And that was it. I just loved it. Absolutely encapsulated my attention, for every game, which was great. Right. Let's jump into my little talk about the players. So the 6 teams that we had there, there was a team from France, Duc d'Angers, which I think is from Angers. I think that's how it's pronounced. And they're the Angers Ducks, essentially. HK Mogo from Latvia. Herning Blue Fox from Denmark. Torpedo, something I can't pronounce, from Kazakhstan. The Nottingham Panthers from the UK, and then GKS Katowice, which are or Katowice, they're a Polish team. And so those are the 6 teams that played. And for those unfamiliar in the Continental Cup, it's sort of like teams that succeed in a national sort of league environment where they might win that league or win the cup of that league or win the playoffs of that league, get put into the Continental Cup, where there's, I think, 3 or 4 qualifying leagues or like tables. So you have to sort of win those groups or succeed in those groups or host or something similar in order to get to what they call the Continental Cup. I think they used to be called the Continental Cup Super Finals or something, but they're just the finals now, where 6 teams compete over the course of a few days, where they play in 2 groups of 3, and then there's a gold medal game, a bronze medal game, and what they call a placement game. Now, each of those teams are obviously at different sort of levels, because even to get that far, there seemed to be I'd say like a top tier, then a good middle tier, and then a couple of teams that maybe struggled a little bit more, but still produced some really good hockey and some really cool moments. So I'm going to start just in the order I've written them, I think. Oh, no, I won't actually, because I'll do it. I'll get the one out of the way that's maybe a bit negative. So the GKS Katowice player, Jean Dupuis, who is a Canadian guy who plays for that team. I think he's an assistant captain or an alternate captain or whatever it is. So it was really interesting watching him because I got to watch Katowice's all three of their games. And again, they were like a big physical team, played that physical style of hockey. And the first game I watched of them was against HK Mogo, and they were the Latvian team, a bit smaller, less physical. A couple of like seasoned vets that you could see floating around there who looked like they were sort of grass-fed cattle sized. I mean, they were properly huge, but most of the team was undersized, didn't have that same level of physicality that the Polish team did. And Jean Dupuis was against Mogo, was very physical, tough to get away from the net front. I'm pretty sure he scored 2 goals, certainly one, and just seemed to be able to find the soft ice and just like punished the less physical team. And was, I wouldn't say bullish, but had that kind of like schoolyard bully kind of thing about him where he'd be like cross-checking and stuff like that, and just being a real physical nuisance. And that was really apparent in the Moga game. And I mean, there were some bits where you think it was a little bit borderline, but whatever, like I guess it's hockey at the end of the day. And then they played the Panthers in the second of their group games, and they lost, I think it was 3-0, 4-0, something like that. And he disappeared. Like, it became pretty apparent to me that he's a bully and a physical presence when he outsizes his opponents, but he just seemed to just not really be present during the Panthers game. Got out-muscled in the corners, and then started having a hissy fit. So every other shift, it was like whinging to the ref, slapping his stick on the ice, complaining to someone, stuff like that. Seemed to have a bit of an attitude problem, honestly. Looking from the outside looking in, just seemed to be, the kind of guy that is quite happy, I say bullying smaller players, but as soon as someone his own size, so to speak, steps up and faces off, doesn't seem to quite have the same physical presence. I'd say what was really interesting, I actually looked, because I cracked open Elite Prospects a few times over the trip to see if anyone had been drafted or look at see if anyone's history, see where they played junior and stuff like that. And when he was an overager in the WHL, he had a really good season. Every season before that was middling to bad. So clearly, once he was physically capable of out-muscling smaller competitors, he shone. And I just thought it was really interesting to be able to make that tie back to his junior record to today, and sort of see that style of play. I mean, there's no denying the fact that he was clearly one of the best players on the ice during that Mogo game, and really dominated them, which was cool to watch. But yeah, it was just amazing how that different style of opponent, different level of physicality, someone can obviously like reach their ceiling, I guess. And I got to watch that in real time, which was really interesting. I'm going to go for one of my favourites of the whole weekend now. So the Torpedo netminder, Vladislav Pestov. Good lord. Like, if I don't know if they do proper intense stat tracking in the Continental Cup, but his goals saved above expected must have been off the charts. He won Best Goaltender of the event award at the end of it, and absolutely deserved it. He made some otherworldly saves. There were a couple, I can't remember who it was against. I think it was against Herning Blue Fox, where he's going, they're stretching the play side to side, and he somehow makes the first save, right? So it's like a couple of, I think it went right side to left side, back to right again, and somehow he gets a pad on it. And then, whilst down on the floor, like flapping around, trying to get back up again, the rebound goes straight to the player who just shot, who elevates the puck. And I have no idea how he did this, but he just flashes the leather, catches the puck, and I've never seen that in person so close, I guess, where it's so obviously gonna be a goal, and then it's just snatched out of thin air as if by magic. Video game style. It was that ridiculous. And he absolutely stood on his head in the Herning Blue Fox game. Like they won 6-2 in the end, but there was a time period where Herning were up 2-1, and they must have had 15 shots on goal that just like 3 or 4 of them just should have been goals. And you're watching it happen in real time, and you just think there's no way this team is going to win because this guy seems unbeatable right now. And he had a really, really good game next game as well against who else did they play? Duc d'Angers, I think it was. Again, only let in 2. And I don't think it went to a shootout. I think they ended up losing in overtime, but it didn't matter because they'd already come second. They'd won by enough to be first in the group, I think it was. yeah, so he just played his lights out in that game against Hurling Blue Fox. And then in the Panthers game, again, made some outstanding saves. It could have been more than 4-2. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do when you're getting outshot, almost 3-1, I think it was in the end. So yeah, it was quite something. But yeah, really, really excellent sort of character. And he was a proper like characterful goalie as well, like made just lay flat on the ground in like a starfish position after making his like 40th save or whatever it was against Herning, and just sort of stuff that makes a crowd cheer and laugh. And it was really, really nice to see that impact on the group. So the next one for Duc d'Angers is going to be Neil Manning. So he's a defenseman, Canadian, playing for the French team, and has done for a little while by the looks of it. And I'm not going to pick him up on his like play, because his play was fine. His character and he stirred the pot a little bit, and I thought it was really funny. So in the d'Angers Torpedo game, basically there's no two ways about it. The Torpedo players spent a bit too much time, on the floor, should we say? So like, yeah, there were some questionable like cross checks and slashes and stuff like that. But my God, did they milk it? They went down, they'd hold their arm, they'd end up playing blowing the whistle to stop play, and then they'd be up and they'd be able to take their next shift, no problem at all. And it was pretty apparent that they were kind of milking it a bit. And I don't really like that style of play. I think it's not in the spirit of hockey, and that's what football's for. So it was a bit of a shame to see some of that. And yeah, I will question the cleanliness of their play generally. I think there were some stick infractions they made that, you could see no refs were looking, sort of stuff. And I know that happens in hockey all the time. But then to flap around on the floor, and one of them actually started taunting players like after they'd scored an empty net goal. He probably got a massive cross check in the arm, which broke the guy's stick. Which I think it was Manning actually who did it. But he stood up for his players, and I appreciate that. And anyway, so Manning goes to the box, and there's like, I don't know, 3.5 minutes left. And it's like they review the penalty, it gets put to a major, and he gets a game misconduct. And so he's got to escape from the penalty box off the ice, and through the benches. And he gets about 2/3 of the way across, and he points at the torpedo bench, and then dives onto the ground and starts clutching his arm and like faking an injury. And I just thought I'd love that sort of stuff. Any sort of shit stuff like that, where it's so obvious that what they're doing is, not in the spirit of the rules, and he wants to play up to that, and the whole crowd starts cheering and laughing. And I just thought, again, that kind of thing, being, if you're going to get the game misconduct anyway, be willing to stir the pot a little bit. And it did get the Torpedo players really riled up, actually, and you could see it in the final. When things weren't quite going their way, the same characters that were really hot-headed in the other games just seemed to absolutely blow their lids, and their play was suffering because of it, honestly, which was really interesting. Right, HK Mogo, the Latvian team. So small, undersized, underdogs of the whole tournament, really. But that made them a crowd favourite, which was great. They had a really cool left-handed defenseman called Nick Svanenko. And actually, I went onto his elite prospects page, and he's had he had a draft rundown in like 2023, so he was clearly on the fringe of being drafted. He is, I guess, that team's equivalent of a Quinn Hughes. He was sort of double shifted on the power play, left-hand defenseman, puck moving, but was able to really neutralize plays at the blue line as well, which was really cool to watch. But yeah, I mean, he had flashes of skill. Head up, great skating, and you just see him as 10% better than anyone else on the team at the majority of the things that make up the sport. And I say occasionally getting, shift on, shift off, shift on again. His ice time must have been highest on the team by a margin. He's playing loads, but it was just cool to be able to see that kind of that parallel, I suppose, between the NHL when you see a Quinn Hughes do 30-something minutes a night getting double shifted or whatever, or a Matt Schaefer. And then you can kind of say, okay, well, look, clearly it's not that level, but in that league or in that environment, it's the same kind of treatment. And he played a really, really good tournament. I think he had I think it was a shootout goal, and he just, absolutely undressed the goalie. It was quite something to watch. Right, so for the Nottingham Panthers, I'm going to pick Chase Pearson. That guy is a fucking unit. He's huge. I didn't realize quite how big he was. I've seen like pictures and stuff, but this is the first time I got to watch him play in person. And the guy's massive. I think he played for the Red Wings for a few games in the NHL. But he's a real physical character, and you can just see like he really imposes his presence on the game. You know, big hits, great stick, and effectively turns over pucks in the offensive zone on a forecheck pretty regularly, generating chances for his team. And then again, occasional flashes of skill too. But yeah, just a big guy, really big guy. But in a way that he can still looks like he's comfortable on skates, not like slow big, if you know what I mean. It's a subtle difference. But it was cool to watch that kind of part of the game, I suppose. And I guess that level of physicality, I'm guessing that's what you need to, that's the shape you need to be in to break into the NHL. You know, bigger, stronger, faster sort of stuff. And we got to see a bit of that over the week as well. And then last but not least, probably one of my favourite players to watch play. And it's a 37-year-old Danish man called Morten Poulsen, who's the captain of the Herning Blue Fox. Why do I like watching him? Well, there was a couple of reasons. One, I think I've made it pretty clear that I like the kind of like the grinding kind of player, not the flashy skill player. And the number of times he'd know when to engage on the boards, he'd pick up a puck and then it'd be distributed and away they'd go. He did, I think he also picked up the game-winning goal in the bronze medal game, which was cool. But yeah, so anyway, great kind of smart player. Could clearly see he was thinking the game, but also his skating style was really unique. Now, you're not supposed to bend over, right? You're supposed to bend the knees to get low. And he would do both bend the knees and then start like arching his back almost. But it made him really, like, just a really interesting skating style. And I just couldn't stop watching. I thought it was really interesting. Not ungainly at all, but just really different. And the faster he would go, the more he'd lean. So you sort of see, and like if he was stood walking around, he was just stood perfectly upright. So it wasn't like a Milan Lucic style thing where he just permanently like has the sort of, I guess, the hunched over look. But it was more like as he got faster, he hunched more and sort of had this really compact skating style. It was really interesting to watch. I don't know. And his head would bob a bit. And so you'd sort of see just a very different looking movement to your traditional skater. And it just reminded me, I guess, how do I put it? Well, it says no pictures on the scorecard for golf. And in the same respect, you know, you can have this vastly different physical style or different look about you and still find a way to contribute. And I guess for me, I'm not a very competent skater, but if I can find a way to contribute, I'm really proud of that. So, you know, they were drawing some very, very tenuous links there. But it was really cool to watch. It seemed like a pretty humble guy. It was signing a couple of pucks here and there as well. He actually skated back onto the ice, retrieved a puck after warm-ups. So like he'd already finished, and some kid had a silver pen or whatever by the door. So he actually put his stuff down, went out on the ice, picked up a puck while they were trying to pack them away, went back, signed it, and gave it to the kid. And you just think that's the couple of minutes of effort that's going to change someone's day. And he was willing to do that. I didn't really see anyone else do quite the same level of, I say, you know, like giving time to the fans, who were amazing, by the way. The Danish fans, incredible. Dressed up in Viking hats, hugely loud for such a small group of people. Like, it can't have been more than a couple of hundred, but they had the volume of a couple of thousand. It was brilliant. But all the away fans were like that, but the Danish ones seemed to be the most. They had the most volume per capita, if you like. The Polish fans were the loudest, but there were like 3 times as many of them. So, but yeah, awesome to watch. And those are, I just wanted to, like I say, those are the players. I just wanted to air some names, have a bit of a chat about some of the things I've enjoyed watching. Yeah, so all in all, amazing. And then the Panthers win it 4-2 in the final. I loiter around, loads of cheering, loads of clapping. My hands are pretty sore actually from all the clapping. But yeah, it was brilliant. You get to see all the families on the ice, you know, lifting the cup, doing the wee thing, you know. Lots of frivolity and beer. I mean, they were smashing beers on the balcony while they were like, you know, coming out and saying hello to everyone. And I don't know if this is just a British hockey thing or not, but there were like specific chants for players. So when they got to the balcony at like 10:30 till 11 at night, players would come out in 1s and 2s and like wave to everyone, flash the trophy up, get a cheer. And then if those players had specific songs, then the whole crowd of like 1,000 plus, maybe 2,000 people would start chanting the song at like 11 at night, which was so cool. So cool to be a part of and to witness that. And yeah, it was great. Like a really fun atmosphere. I didn't get home until 6 o'clock this morning because I had to drive back, and I stopped twice and slept like at some service stations for a couple of hours just to make sure I could get back safe. But it was so worth the trip. So worth the trip. It was amazing. And like I say, it's inspired me to do a European trip, next year, I imagine, at this rate. But God, it'd be so cool. Yeah, hugely exciting. Great weekend. So let's wrap up on the Continental Cup then, and flick over to, I guess, what I did in hockey. Now, it's a shortened week for me because I was away most of it. I actually have adult learn to play for the first time in ages tonight, so that's going to be good fun. But I did have rec practice on Wednesday, and I really enjoyed it. It was the first time, so I've switched from a cage to a visor. It was the first time using a visor, and for a risk-averse person, I was a little bit nervous. But visor and mouth guard. And I actually really liked the extra field of view I got from it. It really helped just being able to see what was happening around me. My peripheral vision was better. I felt more comfortable being heads up about stuff. It was really odd to explain. I did feel a bit more exposed. So when we were doing the screening, we did a screening drill, which was like, I guess like a 3-player screen with a couple of defensemen trying to nudge them out of the way. Or 2 screen and 1 floating. But yeah, I mean, I did feel a bit more exposed for that, and I think that will take some getting used to. But it's good exposure. It's good ways of trying to open my risk appetite, and it did really help with some visibility issues too. Although I will say, like, I sigh a lot, and I realise I have to now sigh down, not up, or else I start to fog up, which isn't ideal. But yeah, really, really enjoyed that. That was nice, actually. We did a really cool team shootout drill as well. So basically, there's 5 pucks on the blue line, and you're split into 2 teams, and you have to basically do a shootout, but you keep the puck until the puck goes in the net. So if you miss, you have to retrieve the puck, bring it back to the blue line, and the next person has to go. And the first team to clear 5 pucks wins, and the losers do a lap. And that was really fun. Like, it allowed people to be a bit creative. One of the guys who's probably more like my level of skating and capability scored, and everyone erupted, and it was brilliant. He's a real character. He's been there from the beginning. He's a lovely guy. He turns up all the time. He's like max commitment, and I love it. And he scored a goal, and it was great. Unfortunately, I didn't quite get my goal. I went forehand, backhand, obviously, because that's the move. And just got away from me. I think I got it was a good poke check from the goalie. I just sort of ran out of real estate. But I hope we do that drill again, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it really got people, like, I don't know, happy. Like, everyone was getting an opportunity to shoot. The goalies were great. It was a really good time. And then the scrim intensity was brilliant because of that. I think everyone was kind of amped up. Made some nice heads-up plays, like passes, banked some stuff off the boards, got some guys going, which was great. So started some counter-attacks, some breakouts. That was really fun. And did give away one pretty egregious ozone turnover, which I was really pissed off with, actually. And it happened, and I was like, fuck. I could see it happening as I was playing it, and I was like, oh, you idiot. But yeah, such is life. But no, it was good fun. Really good fun. Nice to get involved. And also, I picked up one of my laces had a tear in it, so I picked up a new lace that said it was waxed, and it 1000% is not waxed. So it was loosening by the middle of the session, which was a bit annoying. So I think I'm going to grab probably some more laces and chuck out the non-waxed, so-called waxed lace that I have on my right shoe, which was a bit of a shame. But, it's obviously not the reason that I was particularly bad. It just frustrated me a bit while it was happening. Now, I touched on diet last time and resetting. Obviously, it's been a little bit difficult while I've been away. I haven't eaten too badly. I just probably had a bit too much. But it's been relatively healthy food choices, vegetables and things included, not just having a McDonald's every day. I only had one, which I'm pretty proud of. But yeah, like loads of Asian food. Like I had Vietnamese, Thai, I had a Chinese, and I also had some ramen for like basically all the hot meals I had. That was quite good. And it was fine until I was driving home yesterday and had a massive bag of crisps. That was a mistake. But yeah, broadly quite good. And then loads of walking and stuff to try and just keep the joints moving, even with the additional hockey workload. So next week, in terms of hockey goodness, I think it's going to be a 3-session week by the looks of it. I should have rec practice. I've got the Friday afternoon session, and then also hopefully another adult learn to play session if I can book a ticket for it in time, which would be ideal really. So yeah, loads of hockey stuff going on next week, which would be great. Nice to get back into the swing of it as well. And yeah, plenty going on otherwise. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyable week. Really, really good to go to the Continental Cup. And I say really enjoyed my Wednesday training session. Stayed late. Actually showered for the first time at the rink. Normally I drive home and shower afterwards, but because I was driving up to Nottingham straight away, that was an ordeal. I had like a 4-hour kip in a lay-by, and that was all my sleep. Maybe it was 3 actually. But I had a I say a team shower. It wasn't it was only a couple of us, because you just sort of, there's only a few showers there. But that was I guess popping the cherry on that experience. I've now had the hockey changing room shower experience. How was it? It was wet, and I was cleaner for it, so that's good. It was fine. It's just, I say it's like showering at a public pool. That's all. It was all right. It's good day in general, and a really enjoyable week of watching hockey. I'm going to leave it there before I ramble any further. Thanks ever so much for listening. As per usual, like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. And next time out, we'll have plenty to catch up on. Hopefully three hockey sessions, and some thoughts on the Jets, because I was going to touch on those today, but I've realised I'm already doing like 32 minutes. So I'll save those for next time. And until then, goodbye for now.